about me throwing you under the bus. You know what it would be? It would be released through documented people coming on the record and having the protection to do so that haven't had yet. It would be eyewitness statements. It would be evidence, tons of it, and it would be through years. And it would be unbelievable to imagine that either I'm in a secret fight club, or B, I've had
a secret what?
I've had a secret fight club, or that I have been plotting to do this for for 3 years, and while taking pictures of it and documenting it, just saving it up for the right time when I'm not asking for any money and have nothing financial to gain from it. But no one is going to believe that. No one is going to believe that one of the two alternatives. Either I'm in a fight club.
Do you believe you're an abuser?
No.
Do you believe you abused me physically?
Do I physically believe? I mean, do I believe I physically abused you?
Yes.
Do you know I'm 115? Well, not anymore, but I was 115 pounds. I'm a 115-pound woman, and you're. I have the capacity to abuse.
That's not the question. That's not the question.
Have I ever been able to knock you off of your feet?
You started.
Off your balance?
You started these things.
You're going to get up on the stand, Johnny, and say she started it? Really? I have never been able to overpower you. That's the difference between me and you.
Why did you try?
And that's the difference that the whole world and the jury and the judge will see, is that there is a very big difference between me and you. You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
yes.
It's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
Typically, I don't do any topics related to celebrities because for me it's not important, and here we talk about the real important questions in life that you can't find anywhere else, and celebrity news can be found anywhere. However, having said that, there are two exceptions. So one of them is certain celebrities that we talk about, and I will have an upcoming video about celebrities that have mostly been child stars, and I think all of them, actually 100% of them, and ultimately leads them to a nervous breakdown of some sort, which, in my opinion, and I always come with receipts, so this is allegedly, again, in my opinion, have been induced by MK Ultra. Mind control. And if you haven't watched that video, then I certainly suggest that you watch it, as it's not a prerequisite, but it will really help you to understand, especially if you're someone who just rolled their eyes and said, yeah, right. MK, mind control and brainwashing is not even true. Well, it is true, and the government has been doing it since the 1950s, and so they were able to perfect their technique back then, and I believe they have been using it since then to program and brainwash our celebrities in order to further control people and the narrative that is put out there, Hollywood and television and media in general. And apart from MK Ultra, there's also another memo that was released for a different project. I think it's called Bluebird, that was controlling, basically said that the CIA was to control the narrative for all media outlets, including every publication, every news publication, every news programming on TV, anywhere from the New York Times, Time Magazine, to anything you watch on television. So please watch out for that in the future. We'll be talking about Lady Gaga. We'll be talking about Raven Simone, who recently had a nervous breakdown and was diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, which is a dissociative disorder that often comes along with MK Ultra brainwashing because of the breakup of the psyche. So that's the one exception, and today is going to be the other exception. So today we're going to be talking about Johnny Depp and his relationship with Amber Turd. And there is one clip, although if you look online, you're going to find many audio clips and evidence. And we're going to have to speak in code because I'm sure you're aware of this platform's guidelines and the algorithms that they use to censor what we say. And there's another video coming for you about how that censorship, whether that's what it is or if it's a violation of our First Amendment rights of free speech, which I believe that it is. But back to the topic at hand. I do have to speak in code. So for the word abuse, I'm going to call it mistreatment. So that's physical mistreatment. I don't know if I can say sexual mistreatment. Emotional, mental. That's how we're going to call it. So if that's what I say, we could also call it SA for sexual assault, etc. So you guys get it. When I say that, that's what I mean. So although there's numerous audio clips that you can find online, that where Amber Turd has admitted to physical mistreatment, including punching and hitting Johnny repeatedly, and her inability to stop it, stop herself, contain herself from doing so. It's been very rare that I've seen the term narcissistic mistreatment, abuse, used for what Johnny has gone through. Some people agree, and it's been pretty clear that he has been physically mistreated and hit. People call this a domestic, violence, DV, as we're going to call it. But it really goes far beyond that, and I think not many people are familiar with the term narcissistic abuse. But this is really what he went through. And one of the big questions that people have asked repeatedly and no one has been able to address is, why did he stay? Why did he put up with this? And I think that's a very difficult question. And while that question is often stigmatized because people say, victims should not be questioned, it is a valid question. And I don't think any question should ever be stigmatized because that sweeps it under the rug and it doesn't allow for open and honest discussion. And this is, in my opinion, a topic that needs to be discussed. It need not be stigmatized. It should be open so that people are open to discussing it. And people who are going through it, who are trying to get out of it, or who have already gotten out of it, do not feel embarrassed or stigmatized in not just discussing it, but in being open about their own experiences, as I am going to do today, because I myself have been a victim of this. I don't like that word victim, so I'm going to say survivor. I have been a survivor of narcissistic mistreatment. And so I can attest to it and answer for him that there's several reasons why he didn't leave. And one of the reasons, which we will go into very much in depth in a future video, where we analyze and discuss, along with my own experience, his abusive, when I say that, childhood. So he had a very dark childhood where he witnessed his father's mistreatment at the hands of his mother, who was very much a narcissistic mistreater, serial, just like Amber. And he witnessed this his whole life. And so, as I said, we'll go into that along with if you haven't seen his testimony, I believe that might have been day one. That was day one of his testimony, probably day 4 of the trial. And he goes very much in depth into discussing his childhood, what he witnessed, and we'll talk about subconscious programming and repeating of cycles and why this is so important, because that is one of the major reasons why he stayed. It's also one of the reasons why he fell into substance dependence. And as you will hear me often say, a lot of these things are not, they are symptomatic. They are not the root cause. They are merely a symptom of some much deeper problem. In this case, the substance use was to cover the pain, all the pain that he carried within from his childhood and everything that he witnessed, along with, the pain from dealing with this relationship, and deeper seated depression and anxiety, which again is merely a symptom of a much deeper cause, as well as perpetuating cycles. So this is a cycle that he witnessed, and he is continuing it. But as I said, we're going to go much more in depth in the next video. In this one, I would like to analyze and discuss a clip. An audio clip, which they were both aware was being recorded, where Johnny asks Amber, I want to say a total of 5 times, do you agree or do you believe that you physically assaulted me? And very much in line with the way that narcissists respond. It's evading the question, deflecting, mirroring. She does this repeatedly and never actually answers the question. She throws it back at him, trying to humiliate him, trying to make him feel emasculated and weak, and deflecting the question and never clearly responding, because narcissists tend to believe that no matter what happens, they are not wrong. It's always the other person's fault. And you can clearly see, both in his questions and in her response, the clear symptoms of narcissism on her part and narcissistic mistreatment on his part.
It's not about that. It would not be about me throwing you under the bus. You know what it would be? It would be released through documented people coming on the record and having the protection to do so that haven't had yet. It would be eyewitness statements. It would be evidence, tons of it, and it would be through years. And it would be unbelievable, to imagine that either I'm in a secret fight club, or B, I've had
A secret what?
I've had a secret fight club, or that I have been plotting to do this for 3 years, and while taking pictures of it and documenting it, just saving it up for the right time when I'm not asking for any money and have nothing financial to gain from it. But no one is going to believe that. No one is going to believe that one of the two alternatives. Either I'm in a fight club.
Do you believe you're an abuser?
No.
Do you believe you abused me physically?
Do I physically believe? I mean, do I believe I physically abused you?
Yes.
Do you know I'm 115? Well, not anymore, but I was 115 pounds. I'm a 115-pound woman, and I have the capacity to abuse.
That's not the question. That's not the question.
Have I ever been able to knock you off of your feet?
You started.
Off your balance?
You started these things.
You're going to get up on the stand, Johnny, and say she started it? Really? I have never been able to overpower you. That's the difference between me and you.
Why did you try?
And that's the difference that the whole world and the jury and the judge will see, is that there is a very big difference between me and you. You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
yes.
It's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
And so, one of the answers to that question of why didn't he leave is, and you can see it in this and in so much of his testimony, and so much of the quote-unquote evidence that they use in his text messages against him, where they say he apologized. I mean, that's just another example of her narcissism and her narcissistic mistreatment of him, and how he covered for her, because it is very much in line with that, because narcissists tend to, if you try to have an adult discussion, an open and honest discussion where you tell them what they're doing to you and you're thinking you are communicating clearly and it might allow you to, put this out in the open and move forward, they will never admit to what they've done. They will say, well, throw it back at you and tell you that you're the one who has done this, or a term that's called gaslighting, which is supposed to and always does causes the other person to have self-doubt, to wonder if maybe they're crazy, that maybe they are doing this on some subconscious level that they're not aware of. And another reason is the embarrassment. They don't want people to know that they are going through this. And the third, still and most important, possibly, is to cover for that person, because another thing that narcissists tend to do, and I experienced that very much in my previous relationship, is that they they never want their facade, their charade, to be exposed. Once you've seen it, then it's always a problem. And because of the initial phase where you began a relationship with them, it's called love bombing phase. And Johnny Depp talks about this clearly in his testimony, where he talks about how she seemed too good to be true, were his words. And that's typically the way that it seems at the beginning of a relationship with a narcissist, because they do seem too good to be true, and that's because they are. They are typically, if they're not intelligent, they appear to be, and they are able to emulate whatever your dream person is. That's who they become. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if she had, during her filming of the movie whose set they met on, which is called The Rum Diary, and it was written by Hunter S. Thompson. He sort of picked her by hand, even though he said that she didn't seem to have the acting ability. She had the right look, and which is very telling of her life, because that's kind of how she's gotten by, I believe, just always on her looks and on her ability to manipulate people. So he talked about how she seemed too good to be true, and the first year was magical, and I don't doubt that at all, because they typically cling to people who are like him and I, very sensitive. Many times they're empaths, and they feel, so as I was saying before, I wouldn't be surprised if she did research on him and knew that he liked blues music, and did some research on that, and talked about the greats and pretended like if she liked it too, and just researched everything that he really liked, and pretended like if that's who she was. And in my case, it was very much the same thing. This person came, and I'm not someone who just dates anyone. I tend to look for a very, very deep-seated emotional connection, mental, physical, emotional, and they were able to meet all of these things. And I remember one of the first things they told me, and it seemed to be a trait of theirs, that they would say this to every new person they met in a way to kind of impress them. That one of their dreams was to open a nonprofit. And for me, that was important, because one of my dreams is, and the many, many dreams I have, and they all are basically the same thing, is, to help people, disenfranchised people in, a number of different ways, whether that's, children, animals, victims of mistreatment in a number of different ways, impoverished, children, the list goes on and on. And, they were able to kind of hook me in that way. And further down the line, once I saw through their facade, there was a period of time when they were injured and not working, and I remember suggesting that they work on, their supposed lifelong dream of this NGO, and I offered, to help them, and I did research, and I remember him being so angry and offended at my suggestion, and I didn't understand why you would be so upset about me suggesting that you fulfill or begin to attempt to fulfill your lifelong dream. And the reason was because I was poking at this facade that he didn't want to be addressed because it was never his dream. It was just simply a topic of conversation that he brought up whenever he met someone new in order to appear to be this caring, empathetic person that he was not. And so, in Johnny's case, and in my case, and in any case of a person who is dealing with a narcissist, that is one way to tell that that's the kind of person that you're dealing with. And once you see through their facade, then every time they see you, you as the person in a relationship with them will always be trying to get back to that initial love bombing stage. You say they used to be, this incredible person. And I thought this, because mine happened around the 6 month, a year point, the same as with Johnny. And I always thought, well, maybe I did something. Maybe there was something that I did and it made them change because it seemed to be so abrupt, their change. It didn't seem like the same person. And maybe I did something to upset them. And maybe if I am nicer or, am better or change in these ways, in whatever ways they're claiming that you need to change, then maybe they will get back to being that loving, wonderful person that I thought that this dream person of mine that I thought I knew. And that's one of the hardest parts of dealing with the aftermath of, coming out of a relationship with a narcissist, because it's almost like a double breakup, or even, I'm hesitant to say death because I have lost someone, and as painful as it is, you can never compare it, but it's somewhat like that because you realize that the person, after you break up initially, further down the line, if and when hopefully you figure out that you were in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, you realize that and Johnny said this during his testimony, that the person that you fell in love with, that you thought you fell in love with, never really existed. That person, you just made them up in your head, and they made up this character like someone in a movie or a play. They never really existed except in your mind. And that's really sad and tragic, and it's a hard loss to deal with in a number of different ways, and particularly the aftermath, because being with this person really just ruins your self-esteem, your self-love in such a fundamental way that it's so hard to get back. And that's pretty much the major reason why I was able to even figure out that I had been in this kind of relationship, because it was so difficult to heal. And I had, my teens and early 20s, I'd been in other long-term relationships, and getting out of them was never as, it was painful, extremely painful in some cases, because, you love this person. It's always hard to break up. But in this case, it was so much more extreme than that. It was a different level. It was like my self-esteem, my self-love was shattered. Like, I fell into a deep depression, and part of it is, I believe, the codependency that is created within the relationship, that's perpetuated, and the narcissist will continually work to make you codependent, meaning isolating you from previous relationships, isolating you from your friends, from your family, from anyone else that is not them, which ultimately creates a pattern of deep-seated codependency, which is really difficult to break free from, because once you're out of it and you manage to break free from all of that, then you have nothing else beside them, which is sadly and ironically exactly their point. That's exactly the purpose of them having done this during the entirety of the relationship. So they do know what they're doing. And for me, and this is it's a pattern from the research I've done and from the survivors of narcissistic relationships that I have coached and helped to in the aftermath of these relationships. These are cycles, and they are always the same for everyone. And all of the different people and relationships that I've spoken to that have come out of this, their stories are always, different and unique, obviously, but very much the same in terms of the phases and the cycles and the different tactics that the narcissists use in order to entangle them. And that's just because, narcissists tend to have similar traits, all of them, and it's a subconscious kind of thing. Typically, narcissists have come from homes where their parents were either narcissists or neglectful or abusive, or had issues with dependence on either alcohol or different substances. And I believe Amber herself spoke of her having been abused and been a witness to that as a child, and been a victim of it herself. And I don't doubt that. My ex also had parents that actually had abandoned them, and one of them was simply neglectful and I believe just left, and then the mother had issues of very deep issues with drug abuse, and they were not in their life at all. They were very lucky to have relatives who were very caring and loved them very much and were able to, raise them. But there is something that happens when the people who are supposed to love and protect and nurture you are not there. And it all depends on how you deal with it. You either become stronger and more caring and compassionate, or you take the opposite route, which narcissists do, and develop this sort of antisocial personality disorder, which in this case is a narcissistic personality disorder, and decide to take out this pain on the world. Although that's not their view. Narcissists rarely change. It's sort of like psychopathic tendencies. They are very embedded, and I believe their neural pathways are set in a certain way, and it's extremely rare, and they're unable to change. I think that if they say that they do, or if they try, they may try, but I always think that it would be them emulating change and not them actually changing, because of their inability to feel in the way that normal people do. So we've spoken about the love bombing, about the gaslighting, and we haven't even gotten into the actual recorded dialogue itself that I wanted to address. So we talked about how narcissists at the beginning tend to seem perfect or too good to be true, as you said, and they are. They begin their campaign of smearing you usually after you have already discovered their facade. And because they have worked so hard to create this fake personality, and you have work so hard to cover for them because you don't want your friends and family to know, what's going on behind the scenes or who they really are. And I remember my narcissist would tell me, if you tell your mom or your friends, what's actually going on with us, and that will be the end. That will really be truly be the end of this, because it was so important to him how he appeared. Because what they are, you say, what are they looking for? What do narcissists want? They are looking for constant validation. What they need is consistent narcissistic supply, and that is what you are for them when they meet you, and your friends and family admiring them and saying what a great person they are. I remember for years after I got out of my relationship, because I didn't open up to everyone about this. It was maybe one or two people, maybe my mother and my best friend. But when I finally told my family years later, they said, he really didn't seem like that. I really doubt, because it's family, but there's very few people. If you are a complex person and a private person like I am, there's very few people who actually know you. Even of your friends and family, they're there, but they don't really know you. And so even the people around you will doubt that the abuse ever took place, or that these people are the way that you are telling them that they really were. And that's why it's so hard to um, deal with this, because there's so many people, including the narcissists themselves, and then maybe even family and friends, doubting your point of view, doubting your perspective. And then with their gaslighting, it's very easy for you to think that maybe you're the crazy one, that maybe there's something wrong with you, or maybe the things didn't happen the way that you know that they did. And that's absolutely part of it. That's one of the biggest parts of it. And so you end up feeling as if you are to blame, as if you are always the one who has done something wrong. So let's take a moment to hear the audio clip, and then I want to discuss the important parts that I noted that really show her as a narcissist, and its terrible effect on him. Because I mean, a lot of this trial is really just about the monetary loss that he had, as well as the loss to his reputation. But really, it's so much more nefarious, so much more insidious and deep seated than just that. Because someone's emotional well being, their self love, their ability to love others, to trust other people, is so incredibly important. And these are not things that we can get paid for.
I mean, A secret fake club, or B, I've had
A secret what?
I've had a secret fight club, or that I have been plotting to do this for 3 years, and while taking pictures of it and documenting it, just saving it up for the right time when I'm not asking for any money and have nothing financial to gain from it. But no one is going to believe that. No one is going to believe that one of the two alternatives. Either I'm in a fight club.
Do you believe you're an abuser?
No.
Do you believe you abused me physically?
Do I physically believe? I mean, do I believe I physically abused you?
Yes.
Do you know I'm 115? Well, not anymore, but I was 115 pounds. I'm a 115-pound woman, and you're going to say I have the capacity to abuse.
That's not the question. That's not the question.
Have I ever been able to knock you off of your feet?
You started.
Off your balance?
You started these things.
You are going to get up on the stand, Johnny, and say she started it? Really? I have never been able to overpower you. That's the difference between me and you.
Why did you try?
And that's the difference that the whole world and the jury and the judge will see, is that there is a very big difference between me and you. You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge thinks. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
yes.
It's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
There should be some punitive damages for, but because this is a libel suit, I mean, I really wish you would have added. I don't know if you did for pain and suffering, and punitive damages. Unfortunately, are only for I'm not going to go and get into the whole legal aspect of it, but it's only for companies and corporations. For example, corporations who knowingly pollute the environment. So only they are liable for that. So you can't really get that. Although you can get emotional suffering in a civil case, but I'm not sure if Johnny asked for that. So part of the reason that it's so difficult to um, get help after this is because it's not something that's typically talked about or very well known. For me, I had no idea until, as I said, I started doing some research into why I was feeling these feelings of isolation and depression and, deep-seated issues with self-love. Um, you lose yourself, you lose um, your boundaries, and for them, oftentimes they react in a number of different ways. So in my case, um, and I'll go into that a little bit later. They threatened to kill themselves, and they threatened to and tried to get me to get fired from my job and basically ruin my life if I didn't get back with them. And then I, was so I thought I would just placate him then and be like, okay, fine, I will get back with you, and just to try to get them to calm down and not have me lose my job and where I lived and everything. And they said it's too late. That the opportunity's gone, and now I'm gonna do it no matter what. Then they threatened to hurt my family. Um, Luckily, they didn't have anything that they could use against me in order to, smear my reputation or ruin my life in any way. Like, any pictures, or they didn't have anything like that to use against me. Otherwise, and I'm sure that they would have. Um, and in his case, he began a smear campaign. I'm sorry, she began a smear campaign against him immediately, and it's pretty clear in this clip that we're going to talk about. I know a lot of people have been mentioning during the campaign that it seems like if she was only in this and taking, you know, sneaky and illegal audio, videotapes, and pictures, because she had been planning this all along. And in this clip, she says it. I have been planning this. Either I am a victim of DV, or I have been planning this for 3 years. And clearly, she has, because she's not a victim of DV. So this is what it was. And in my case, the narcissist will typically need a new narcissistic supply, and they usually get it immediately. So in my case, we hadn't even finished, and he had already gotten a new narcissistic supply and tried as much as he could to put it in my face and, make sure that I saw it and make sure that, my friends and, everyone on social networks saw it. And as crazy as they were, and as much as I wanted to be out of this, it still hurt me, and it bothered me so much that I would allow it to still hurt me. But at the end of the day, we're human, and we think that we love these people. I remember that was the point when I said I never truly loved them. It wasn't really love. I mean, I did feel love, but it wasn't really love because I never knew who they really were. It was a caricature that I invented in my mind. And so that allowed me to have the strength to move on. But while I was cutting those ties of quote unquote love, I needed to start from scratch to work on my self love because that had just disappeared. It was gone. And I think that's why this case is so important. First, because it brings to light the fact that this can happen to anyone. And I know that people say, oh, I am one of the most intelligent, most self confident people that exist. And I would think, having grown up witnessing DV, that I would never ever allow myself to fall into uh abuse relationship like this. And yet I did, because the problem with NA is that, narcissistic abuse, NA, which is what we'll call it, is that it's insidious because you don't know that it's happening until it's too late, until you're already in a relationship for years, you're in love with them, and then once you start to see then it's already too late. And you usually don't know. Like for me, I didn't know until a year after I got out. So it's insidious in its nature, and you don't know you're in it until it's already too late. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about this and to bring it to light, because most people who are in it don't know. And so if you're wondering if you are in this kind of relationship, do the research, watch my videos, and you might know. You might realize, like me, it's like a light bulb comes out and you go, oh my God, this is what's happening to me. And this will also help shed light on knowing that this does not discriminate. It can happen to any gender.